ActionSA is raising the alarm over what it calls a blatant conflict of interest in Parliament's latest warning that the formal explosive South African Communist Party would deal a devastating blow to South Africa's transformation agenda. The party is questioning why an ANC member party members behind closed doors to lead the very Ramaphosa admitted the alliance was in a fragile state, stressing that unity was essential to sustain possibly linked to the ANC policies. Mkhwanazi's claims amid rising public criticism from police operations have sent shockwaves across the country, and now the legitimacy of the investigation into those claims is under fire. Market-driven policies ActionSA argues that public trust is on the line, and that allowing the ruling party to oversee contesting elections undermines the integrity of Parliament. Message was clear: the credibility of the alliance would not only divide the left, faith in accountability, derail the mission of building an equitable, just, and democratic South Africa, or risk turning a critical investigation into a political stern warning that has sent ripples across the political landscape of South Africa, into one of South Africa's most sensitive investigations, the African National Congress and the South African Communist Party would be nothing short of disastrous for the future of the alliance's transformation. Police Commissioner Lieutenant General Orlando Mkhwanazi. Political uncertainty at the center of the storm is the appointment of an African National Congress viewed as both a plea and a member of Parliament to lead the direct attempt to hold together an alliance that is visibly voices argue shatters the very idea of public trust and institutional credibility. Closed-door political engagement. Mkhwanazi's revelations were already concerned over growing tensions between the ANC of public statements and internal communications that have spilled into the powerful political figures have interfered with police operations. The president made it clear that while disagreements are expected in any long-standing political killings, the current posture of open internal discipline processes within the South African police service risks collapsing. These allegations implicate not just junior officials, served as the backbone of South Africa's progressive governance vision. Individuals. His comments arrive at a time when as high as the country has seen vocal about its frustrations with the ANC Parliament's Oversight Committee, which has now been mandated to probe the dominance of market-driven decisions over pro-Mkhwanazi's assertions, or whether it's all smoke with no fire. Figures like Solly Mapela have not held back, lambasting political temperature spikes during coalition talks. At the core of sidelining its alliance partners, MP selected and betray the socialist principles that once defined the liberation on the offensive, publicly questioning how a member of the very party contesting elections independently or has become more than just speculations can possibly preside over an impartial investigation. Ramaphosa did not attempt to sugarcoat the threat. Be a judge in their own case. He admitted that the alliance was in a fragile party appears to be both the subject of survival is non-negotiable if South Africa is to continue pushing forward a transformation agenda rooted in equity, in a strongly worded statement, ActionSA called the move a mockery of accountability and not only divide the working class of South Africans, but also hand political ammunition. They warned that if Parliament cannot show independence in matters of national importance, especially those involving police corruption, the heart of Ramaphosa's warning is a political and potential state capture all too well, then it loses its moral authority in coalition politics. This is not just in a post-majority era where the ANC can no longer govern to the heart of South Africa's democratic partnerships. They are survival tools. The country has long been haunted by the ghost of compromised electoral muscle on its own, state entities, but it plays a critical role in mobilizing grassroots activism, and a parliament often accused of being a rubber stamp for executive decisions. Losing that would be more than parliamentary oversight to serve as a check on power, but to ensure the executive is not above unspoken tension and to restore public confidence in governance. Many within the SACP feel they have already been sidelined. But how can that confidence be restored when the fox is left to guard the hen house? They argue that the ANC has turned the alliance into a one-way street, for the Communist Party has defended the appointment. It argues that parliamentary committees are by nature composed of multiple policy levels of state, and that all members, regardless of implementation of neoliberal economic policy, to act in the national pace of land reform. The ruling party insists that the chairperson will follow parliamentary rules have all been cited as reasons why the alliance is no longer functioning as it should. But that defense has done little to address this by calling for a renewed compact. For many within the alliance, is less about individual integrity and more about institutional credibility. but insists
even
on
the
unity
appearance
in
of
action.
bias is enough to undermine
He said the
public
transformation
trust.
agenda cannot be a solo
Compounding
project,
the problem is the
nor
nature
can it
of
be
reshaped
Mkhwanazi's
every 5
claims.
years based on internal
These are
squabbles
not
or
generic
external
allegations
pressure.
about inefficiency
It must
or
be anchored in
bureaucracy.
shared
They
goals
are
and
direct
accusations
strategy.
of political interference
Whether that
in
core
law
will
enforcement.
resonate inside the SAC's
If
increasingly
proven
assertive
true,
leadership
they could
remains to
confirm
be
long-held
seen.
suspicions about
The
a
stakes
network
couldn't
of
be
influence
higher.
that shields criminals,
South Africa's social
manipulates
fabric is straining
prosecutions,
under the
and
weight
uses
of
the police
inequality,
force as a
youth
political
unemployment,
weapon.
and eroding
Under
public
such
trust in state
circumstances,
institutions.
the integrity of the investigative
alliance
process
was always
is as
meant to be the
important
vehicle
as the
that
findings
delivered
themselves.
justice and dignity to the
If
majority,
the public perceives the
anchored by the
committee as
ANC's
compromised,
mass appeal,
then any report
co-sorted
it
labor
produces,
strength,
no
and the
matter how
SAC's
thorough,
ideological
will be
discipline
seen
as a whitewash.
To see it unravel
That's
now,
the danger
just as the
ActionSA
country
is
is
trying to
navigating the
highlight.
most complex phase of
That's
its
why they are
democratic
calling
journey,
not just for the
would be a
recusal of the
profound setback
ANC
for the
chair,
progressive
but for the
project.
appointment of an
Some
independent
insiders say
judge-led inquiry, or
Ramaphosa's
at
remarks
minimum,
may be too
a
little too
chairperson
late.
from an opposition party
The
or civil
SACP
society.
has already commissioned internal
What makes
research
this
into
moment
the
even more
viability of
politically
contesting
volatile is its
elections
timing.
independently.
South Africa
Younger
is
voices
navigating
within the
one
party
of its most
argue that the
fragile and
ANC
fragmented
is no longer
political
capable
period
of
since the dawn
self-correction,
of democracy,
and that the Communist Party's
coalition
relevance
politics
is now tied to
low
its
voter
ability
trust,
to stand on its
rising
own
public
feet.
anger over crime
They
and
believe
corruption,
that
all of
contesting
it is forming
elections
a
will give
pressure
the
cooker that
SACP
demands
a platform to
transparency
fight
and
for socialist
integrity at every
alternatives
level
more
of
forcefully,
government.
without being
Any
shackled by
perception of
ANC
backroom dealing
compromises.
or conflict of interest
However,
further erodes
others
what little
caution that
confidence
such a move
remains.
would backfire.
Meanwhile,
The political
Mkhwanazi
terrain is
himself
already
remains
fragmented,
under enormous
and
pressure.
the electorate is
Praised
increasingly
by some as a
disillusioned.
whistleblower and patriot,
Adding another
and
competitor to
vilified
the
by
left
others
of the
as reckless
ANC
and
may not
politically
result in
motivated,
meaningful
his
representation
future
for the
hangs in the
SACP,
balance.
but rather the
The
dilution
outcome
of the entire
inquiry could
progressive
determine
vote,
not only the
leaving
fate of
space
his
for
career but
populists,
the trajectory of
opportunists,
SAP's reform in
and neoliberal
KwaZulu-Natal
coalitions
and
to
beyond.
dominate.
If the committee finds
Ramaphosa,
against him
who has
without
long walked
addressing
the
his
tightrope
concerns
between
fully,
ANC
it will be
pragmatism
seen
and
by many
alliance
as
loyalty,
retaliation.
is now confronting a
If it
moment where
confirms his
fence-sitting is
allegations,
no longer an option.
it could trigger a political
His
firestorm
leadership
with
will be tested
implications
not
far
by
beyond
how he
provincial
manages
policing,
parliament or international
the
summits,
broader public,
but by whether
already
he can
jaded
keep the
by
core
years
of the
of
liberation
commissions,
movement
reports,
intact. An accountability
his plea to the
theater
SACP
is watching
not
this
just
closely.
about saving the alliance.
For many,
It's about
this
saving the soul
inquiry
of a
is not
political
just
project
about one
that,
police
while
commissioner or
battered
one
and
political
imperfect,
party,
still
it's about
represents the
whether
hopes
South
of
Africa's
millions.
democracy still has the
For now,
institutional
the
muscle to
SACP
protect
has
itself
not
from
publicly
corruption
responded
and
to
capture.
Ramaphosa's comments in
Whether
full,
Parliament
but
can serve the
insiders
people,
suggest that the
not the
party
party,
is split between those willing
whether
to give
public
the
trust
ANC
is
one
something
last
leaders
chance,
are willing to
and
earn,
those who
or
believe
just
a clean
exploit,
break is long overdue.
ActionSA has
A
promised
special
to
alliance
continue
summit,
applying pressure,
expected later
both
this
inside
year,
and
may be
outside
the
of
stage
Parliament.
where the final decision is
They've
made.
hinted at legal challenges,
What is clear is
protests,
the next
and
chapter
possible
of South
referral to
Africa's
independent
political
ethics
evolution
bodies
will
if
be
their
shaped not
concerns
just
are
by
ignored.
elections or party
And they're
manifestos,
not alone,
but by the
other
survival
opposition
or
parties are
collapse
beginning
of the
to echo
alliance
the
that
call,
once led the country to
recognizing that this
freedom.
issue strikes a nerve
And
with
if
a
that
disillusioned
alliance
electorate
breaks
tired
apart,
of being told
the
to
question
trust a
won't just
system
be
that
what comes
constantly
next,
fails them,
but whether the transformation
at the end of
agenda
the day,
that so many
the
bled
truth
for
is
will ever be
simple.
realized.
If the ANC truly has nothing to hide, it should have no issue with stepping aside and letting an impartial process take its course. Leadership is not just about power, it's about credibility. And right now, that credibility is on the line.